Aloha everyone, Michelle with Blossom Inner Wellness, and I'm super excited. We have an amazing guest today. Her name is Amanda Eloesh. Did I say that right? Awesome. Okay, cool. And I want to just explain who she is because we actually were on a call together. I think it was Women's or Wisdom Dialogues, or it was something with Maria Owl. And you just really, really impressed me that I just really want to, super excited to have you on this show on my YouTube channel. So let me just tell you guys who is here. Amanda is the founder and president of the dogma-free Sacred Psychedelic Living Wisdom nonprofit. She is your quicker waker upper and has been receiving visions and guidance for these powerful times of uncertainty and transformation for over 40 years. So I want to talk about that. She received her master's degree in counseling, psychology, and expressive arts therapy, as well as her certification in integrative medicine guided imagery from California Institute of Integral Studies. And she has shared her gifts at California Pacific Medical Center, Institute for Health and Healing, and Marin General Hospital. And she's also an author, and she's the author of Unlock Your Success Codes and the Go Ask Alice Oracle Tea Party Game, which I would like to know about that a little bit later. But today we're going to be talking about how to access your inalienable sovereignty and live your full human potential. And Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Wonderful. So you say that you've been receiving these visions and guidance about this particular time in history for 40 years. Tell us about what does that mean? What did that look like 40 years ago to be receiving this, and how did that happen?
Well, I'm 50, and I've actually been getting downloads since before then, and been just getting incredible connection with Source when I was really, really little, just trying to understand God, infinite power, eternal. And when I would try to, tune in, I didn't really know about meditation per se, but I guess I was going into a meditation to understand it. And I started having these samadhi experiences where I was going into unity consciousness and getting a lot of downloads that some of them have taken me decades to really unfold and understand. Sometimes in those downloads, I've seen visions of myself in the future. I knew that I needed a mentor for all that was coming in. There was nobody around me that was talking about what I was experiencing. I certainly didn't have words for it. And I thought, I need some kind of guidance for what's happening in my reality. And so I opened up a portal to myself in the future and started getting visions. And throughout my life, I've recognized, I'm like, oh, this is that moment that I saw as a child. And so I would sit and send information, consciously send it back to myself. So there were several times throughout my life that I saw that there was going to be incredible economic, environmental strife, government collapse, a lot of chaos, pandemic, disease happening, and that my purpose for being here in this lifetime was to assist people in accessing their connection with Source, which is part of that inalienable sovereignty, so that they could know what their own life purpose, what their own soul contracts are. Because I recognize that my gifts and my challenges and my values and what I'm here to do is unique. So I was passionate, like, how do I translate that to help other people who have a very different life purpose and, unique path? And so that's what I've been really passionately in pursuit of. How do I help other people?
Well, thank you for that. That's amazing and so needed at this time. And to see those visions 40 years ago, did you know like how far it was going to be in the future?
No clue. No clue, but when the pandemic happened, when it was like, okay, we're going into quarantine, it just was like, oh, okay, this is go time. I mean, we've been sliding down slowly, 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 and I don't know, a year or so before was in meditation, and I was just shown like we're really, actually it was right before Donald Trump was elected. I was shown like we're kind of slowly, slowly, slowly sliding, and we always just adjust to the new bad. We're just adjusting to being disconnected from the environment, being disconnected from our power, and it just becomes the new norm. And I just thought, well, how, something's got to happen to shake it all up. And I was shown like Donald Trump's going to get elected, and that's going to be a big catalyst that's going to put a lot of things into motion. And so that was the beginning. And then when the epidemic, the pandemic hit, and it's like we're going into quarantine, it's like, okay, now people are really like, it's been amping and ramping and ramping up, and here we are.
Yeah. Wow. Um, so uh, part of me is like, I was wanting to go back and ask you, when you say you opened a portal, and because this is hard for, like, I totally get it, and I'm like, I'm listening to my audience going, what are people going to think about that? So what do you tell people when you first say this and they're like, what? Because here's the thing, and here's the thing that I want to share with you viewers that are watching. We don't know the power that we have. We have been programmed and dumbed down to think that we have no power and that we're these little peons that just that need to be controlled and told what to do. And it's like they've literally programmed us with media, with school, with all of the movies that are out there. They've programmed us to walk a certain path and think a certain way. That's not who we are. So Amanda, what would you say to that?
Well, I know it's hard to imagine. I've had multiple times, many, many times throughout my life where the ineffable has happened. Sometimes other people have been with me, and I've been quite relieved that I've had a witness, like, okay, you see this. And I live I'm a grounded person. I've held a 9 to 5 job in the past. I'm no longer no longer have a job, but it's hard to explain, especially if you haven't had that kind of an experience, because our three-dimensional consciousness is limited, and it is hard to
Hmm.
understand. It's like if you imagine, like, my partner has a 7-year-old child, a little boy, and there are certain things that I have to translate, what I'm saying to him in a way, because his brain doesn't know how to understand complex theory, and then, things like that. So, our brains have this great capacity, and as you said, a lot of what we have access to has been limited. So
Yeah.
how did I open up that portal? Honestly, I have no idea, except that I had the intention. I was a very powerful child, and I'm now trying to get back into that space, because out of my own, punishment and reflections from the world of like, you don't make sense. This is weird. You're going to
Yeah.
get in trouble. You're going to get, out, you're out of this, get out of the house, you're not welcome here, because what you're saying is weird or crazy
Yeah.
or evil or whatever. So I don't know how I did it, except that I knew I had that power, and I had the intention, and I simply did it with my intention.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
And
thank
it's
you so
how
much for
I
that.
know it worked, because like I said, some of the things that I saw, like now I guide ceremonies, and I saw myself. One of the first visions I got from my elder self was that I was helping people to awaken and to connect with source with my voice, speaking and singing. And I do medicine ceremonies, and I do sound healing, and I do transmissions from source in those circles. It didn't necessarily make any sense to me when I was a child, but here I am sitting like, oh, okay, this is it. It makes sense now. I'm going to
Yeah.
send that transmission back to myself to make sure I continue to feed that loop.
Awesome. Wonderful. And thank you for that. And that takes courage. It takes a lot of courage to say something that is totally out of the norm and is going to kind of freak people out and have you look like you're different, because none of us that keep staying in the tribe is what kept people alive. So I just want to acknowledge you for your
Mhm.
bravery, for honoring your heart and knowing that it's like and trusting that. And I'm sure there were times when you didn't trust it, when you were, questioning it. So, and
Absolutely.
those of you watching, I want you to consider this, and then I want to get into our topic because it's pretty amazing, and it's what we needed. But I want you to consider, if you've never considered, that where you are where you're sitting and watching this, around you, the empty space is not empty. This is a frequency field we walk through every single day that you're connected to. And so she's actually able to, and a lot of people have this gift, and we all have it if we choose to grow it, is understand this field and also utilize it to actually, and it probably your higher guides are also giving you some information that you as a soul being said, I'm going to come forth and I'm going to go on this mission. And yeah, it's going to be challenging. I'm going to be the outcast kind of person, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's amazing. So our conversation, our topic today is how to access your inalienable sovereignty and live your full human potential. And we're going to learn how to ID your subconscious programs is one of the things that we're talking about today. So ID your subconscious programs. How do you help people with that? And how would somebody discover that?
It's actually very simple. And this is the interesting thing, we're multidimensional beings, right? And when you're navigating from the 3D, it all is very, very simple stuff. And until you start to access your super senses, which means tuning into your multidimensional self, this all seems very, very simple, and it is very simple. And the more you bring in your multidimensional layers online, then it starts to resonate outward. So the way to identify if you have subconscious patterns is if you are a generally smart human being, capable, grounded in any kind of way. If you're experiencing repeat patterns of things that you do not like and you're doing your best to not experience them, that they're happening anyway, that is a subconscious pattern. If you're experiencing any kind of negative feelings or thoughts around what's going on in your reality, even though your conscious self knows how to, oh, everything's a gift. If your conscious self recognizes we're all one, there is no bad, it's all an opportunity for growth, and yet your mind, your thoughts, your feelings are being triggered in a negative way, that's a subconscious pattern. Any phenomena around you that you're witnessing that you're like, wow, this is awful, I don't like this at all, that's something in the subconscious, because we're all powerful manifestors and we are all
Mhm.
creating our reality. And
Yeah.
if you're in a limited and very wounded third dimensional reality, it feels like if you're in a victim mode, like
Yeah.
the world is happening to me, right?
Yeah.
Versus recognizing I actually have impact. I am the one manifesting this. We don't want to say that, because if we don't know how to change it, then it feels like we're fucked up and bad. Oh, I'm manifesting this awful thing. What do I do about it? I don't know. So I'm just gonna pretend or keep myself in this safe space of like, I don't have any control.
Yeah.
So, any of those signs, like this is an opportunity to recognize there's something. So there's a woman who it's not 100% aligned with me, but a lot of people are familiar. Her name's Carolyn Elliott, and she wrote the book Existential Kink. I do like one of the themes that she shares, which is having is evidence of wanting. So whatever it is in your life, there's
Mhm.
something in your being, maybe multidimensional part, subconscious part, that wants whatever it is that's in your reality. So it's
Mhm.
important to know, get familiar with the subconscious and your multidimensional self to understand how is all of that manifesting a reality that my conscious self doesn't want.
Yeah, that is the question, and that's the journey. That's the journey. And I feel like each one of us that chose to be here at this time have chosen that we are the vessel. We are that to integrate those feelings and those back into the light and love of the oneness. And I love that, knowing that you help people do that, because that's not easy, and it's not about willpower. You cannot
Not
willpower your way, through it, because it's definitely something that needs support for that. I love that. This is one that that I'm very interested in, is learning the most powerful hack to break out of programming. Now, so programming goes deep. If you're watching this,
does go deep.
we each have been programmed. It's like school, again, all of it is trying to give us a narrative of how to live and who we think we are. It's all designed that way to keep the systems in place of what's happening. But we are way, way more free than the narratives that we have been
Yeah.
living in. So I love this. What, like a hack for these powerful programmings? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, remind me if I forget this track, but it seems important because, you're saying, yes, there's all this programming, there's all these systems of control. And you know, some people aren't aware, but if I
Yeah,
think it's been
that's
pretty
true.
well documented. And if you want to, the first source I heard about it was from a book called Sand Talk, really beautifully written about the indigenous mind and approach to modern life. And Tyson Yunkaporta is the author, and he talks about our modern school system was adopted from the Roman system that was created to keep the people that they had conquered, to keep them subjugated, to keep
Yeah,
them controllable, to bring children in, take them from their families and put them in these environments where they're being brainwashed. Um,
yeah.
not that all the teachers and all that are in on it, but it's
No,
it's just a
they're not
system that's
usually. Yeah,
been passed down and passed down and passed down. So we just accept that, that slow dive into the worse and worse. So none of it's like, oh, conspiracy theory. It's actually documented to be true, including our English language, which was created to disconnect us from awareness of our superpowers. So indigenous languages hold the living connection to source and our super senses and our superpowers. So the hack, the hack is curiosity, because our
mm,
brains go in these, we love narratives, we love complete narratives, we love predictability, we love to be able to we understand through story. And you were saying
yeah,
like movies, TV shows, uh, you know, they give us this narrative, like this is the beginning, middle, end, this is the hero's journey, this is how it
yeah,
works, this is how life works. It gets reinforced over and over, and our mind takes it in as it's a closed loop,
yeah,
and our old wounding, how we survived it. It's a narrative of a closed loop that then goes into the subconscious, and we corroborate that in our conscious self, because our conscious brains also really love predictability. So even though there may be something going on in our reality that's awful, we're going to do stuff consciously and unconsciously, and then reinforced by chemical activation, even if it's adrenaline and cortisone, that's harmful. There's a hit from it, and it's just
yeah.
completely reinforcing. So the only way to break it is to be curious, because it opens our mind. That's how you open your mind, you break the circuit. So it's important what the curiosity is about.
I
So
love that.
the fastest one is, what's the elevation of this? So I'll give an example. I was in a medicine journey. You don't have to be under the influence of a sacred medicine or sacrament to do this. I've done it many times before my work with medicine, and I've helped a lot of people that don't work with sacred medicine. But I was in a medicine journey, and I have an old virus that gets activated in my system, and it makes me feel awful. I feel tired and achy and just no good. I'm in the ceremony. I love to sing, but I'm like, okay, I'm really tired, not feeling so good. Maybe I'll just lay down. And it was like, okay, I'm going to get curious about this. Instead of thinking I'm sick, I don't want to be sick. It's like, what's the elevation? Because you go into dualistic thinking when it's like, there's this thing I don't like, how do I get rid of it? You're still in
Yeah.
that stuck thing. So it was like, what's the elevation? And all of a sudden the medicine, like I was seeing all these negative geometries, and it just felt funky and heavy. And all of a sudden I'm like, what's the elevation? It's like, there's no sick, there's no not sick. There's the elevation is, I don't know, something greater than me that wishes me well, which could just be my higher self, can show me what the elevation is. So how does it get better than this? What's the elevation? How do I bring beauty to this and not know? To stay in that curious space and
I like
ask
that.
for help from whether you're an atheist and recognize that there is a limitless part of you that's goes beyond all our old conditioning, or you believe in source, or you have angels or guides or whoever, tuning into what's the elevation right now, and to stay open. Because as long as I stayed in the, like, what is the elevation, it was showing me beyond the dual thinking. And and it was like, don't go to sleep, don't give in to the tired, sit up and start to sing. And I started to sing, and I ended up singing all night through the end of the journey, and I was completely better.
That's awesome. And I love that too, because asking that question and getting curious and like really curious, and then not trying to fix it, not trying to change it, not making it wrong, that actually opens you up to it. It's a higher, I love that you said elevation, because it's higher frequency. It's a
Yeah.
total higher frequency. And what does Einstein say? He says you cannot solve a problem in the same mindset that created it. So you have to change the frequency.
Yes.
And you're doing that by being curious. And then I love those questions. And how can I make this more beautiful? Or what did you say was the beautiful one?
How does it get better than this? What's
How
the
does it get better than
elevation?
this?
How do I bring
Mm,
beauty to this? And again, like, we ask the question, then our mind goes into thinking about the answer, but the thinking
yes.
that we fall into is old and limited. And until something brand new that's like, wow, if it doesn't make you go, oh, then you're probably, if it's familiar and like, oh yeah, that makes sense,
Yep. I love it.
probably short of the epiphany you're asking for.
Yeah.
So it's got to be outside of your comfort zone. You have to go into the unknown to access it. That's one thing
Yeah.
I love about sacred medicine work, but it could be breath work or anything that takes you out of your comfort zone and puts you in a place of surrender to the unknown, because that's where that curiosity stays open. I have no idea. I don't know how to make this better, but I'm
Yeah.
curious to receive the answer, the healing, the transmission, to unfold that for me, to show it to me.
I love that. I love that too, because what it's opening you, just like you said, it's like it's opening you up for something else to come in, which is exactly what we're needing right now, because so many things are breaking down, and the familiar of what we've been knowing forever is breaking down. I remember a friend of mine came in at the beginning of all this drama 2 years ago, and she was crying. She's like, I lost my job, and like her whole life was shifting, and so I held her and I was like, it's going to be okay. But I love that question of how could this be better? How can this get better? That would have really helped in that moment. But I did tell her, I was just like, things are going to get better. I don't know how, because I know this is what needs to happen right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And
Another one
so,
is what's the upgrade? I'll give just a
mm,
little example. As an answer to prayer, I had been invited to move into a beautiful, multi-million dollar mansion on an acre of property in the East Oakland Hills in California. There were two ceremony spaces, a beautiful outdoor space. We had an outdoor kitchen. We had a sweat lodge where the Native American church was doing sweats. It was everything I had prayed for. My business was booming. I was able to do work for really reduced fee and have people come to ceremonies. I was giving scholarships to BIPOC LGBTQ members. It was just everything that I had hoped for. And then all of a sudden it was like, that property is being sold. You got to get out in 3 months. And I was like, wow, it was a shock to my system. And I knew, because I was like, oh, I gotta go figure it out, like get on Craigslist, find a place. And it was like, I could tell, I'm like, Amanda, what you're doing right now is survival, like, because you're in a heavy place. So it's like, okay, just relax, rest, do your practice, get yourself resourced so that you can be soft and open. Because if you're contracted in trauma, that's not open. That is tight.
yes, yes, yes.
So I did a bunch of self-care practices. I went out in the backyard where there was this beautiful oak tree that I had planted and done ceremony around. And I just put my hand on that oak tree and I said, what's the upgrade? What is the upgrade? Because I trust whenever something beautiful in my life falls apart, I know without a doubt it's an upgrade. I know for you and for everybody out there, anytime something falls apart, it's because your prayer is bigger than whatever it is that you consciously put together for yourself. And it needs to fall apart so that something bigger can come together. So I was like, what is it? And I got this vision, it was like, this is enviable. It is opulent. It is impressive, but it isn't fully aligned with what you're calling in, with your actual prayer. And so it showed me the details. So I knew what to ask for. I knew what to look for. I knew what to feel for in my movement out of that beautiful space into the next thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I love because that you were checking in with the field. This field around us is not empty. This field is infinite possibilities that
Yes.
surrounds us. Infinite possibilities. So it's like, and when it's like you were in this beautiful place and you still opened up to, again, aligning with what it is you came here to do. Like Hawaii, my sister's been here for 25 years. I never wanted to live here. I lived in California as well, Santa Cruz, and I loved it. And then all of a sudden I remember visiting her, sitting on her lanai and just feeling this breeze, like a breeze is happening right now. And I knew, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to live here. And it took, I think, about two years. But when I was just like, it's time. When I knew that I knew
Yeah.
the friggin' time, I was like, it's time. 2 months, sold everything or gave it away. Had like brought like 12 boxes, mostly of books and clothing, and found the place like that. Within 24 hours, I had my place. It was like everything just said yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now I live on a beautiful farm that overlooks the ocean, and it's like I'm like, really?
Amazing.
So I get it. I love that you're sharing this. Let me check at my notes. Learn about your super senses and how to activate them. This is a great one. So if you're watching this, we're just kind of going through the motions right now, but this one is is a great one.
Yeah.
So let us know about that.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say is that, if you have a lot of trauma in your system, and you haven't, that you need to work on that because it's very
Yeah.
loud. It's very loud and it's overpowering and a lot of things are triggering and it's like, it's the bass, boom, 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 and then these subtle parts, these super senses, the voice of our guides, the intuition, it's more fine. So, if you eat a crappy diet, you're not able to vibrate with health. If you fill your mental field with a lot of junky narratives, so it's important to do that deep inner work. But to access your super
Well,
senses, like,
before you go into that,
yes,
I want to also stress about what you just said. When this field, this frequency of empty space is touching your body, and it's in every cell of your body. And so your vibration, what you think and the feeling, and that is what you're manifesting from.
yes,
So I love that Amanda's bringing this up because that frequency, and you can think that that's just who you are. Like, I used to be a very angry person. That's just who I was, but it wasn't. It was coming from a trauma, an emotional childhood trauma that I had not integrated. And some people call it healing. I like integration, but I had not integrated
yeah,
into all that I am to experience the peace even through that trauma.
yeah,
So I love that you brought that up, because
yeah,
if you are, and all of us have had this trauma collectively together for the past 2 years. So
yeah,
it's definitely some work that, or a journey. It's a part of the human journey that
yes,
all of us are on together.
yes,
So,
yes.
and we have guides to help us when we need it. So I love that you shared that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll riff on a little more right before I get into the super senses. I was ordained as a priestess and was, there are a lot of woo-woo communities here in California. And one thing that I noticed was there's a lot of sublimation and focus on the heart chakra up, and everything else is, let's just pretend it's not there. You have to drop into empty presence. And even if you're traumatized in the moment or whatever, it's like, we can have these beautiful sublimated experiences, and if we're not fully honoring the fact that we're human and we have
Yeah.
trauma and we have hard feelings, if we're not embracing it and loving it up and bringing it into the full picture, then it's very frustrating and it almost creates this bigger and bigger gap where, like, oh, I can access this sublimated realm, but then when I'm not in that space, which is most of the time, I'm not in this circle of people or, this ceremony, then my life sucks and I feel heavy and depressed or anxious or whatever. And it's like, it's just a dichotomy, and it makes it harder and harder. And so I just wanted to share that, that these,
Yeah.
trying to escape it all the time by popping into these other experiences is not the way. It's like to bring the
Yeah.
full self into those experiences. So I'm like, I quit. Like, I'm not in to the ceremonies where we're just focusing up here, like, I
Yeah.
want the ceremonies where we're bringing our whole reality, our full
Yeah.
spectrum being, and whatever's out of alignment, the ceremony is about supporting it and bringing it the love so that it can it can belong. This is where
Yeah.
the lack of, I don't belong, I'm isolated, I'm not good enough. It all comes in from these ceremonies that only focus on the upper realms of our chakras. So to access your super senses, you can simply tune in, meditation, and imagine, what would my day be like if I was clairaudient or clairvoyant or clairsentient. Take a moment in the morning and at night, and you can ask to continue to master this in your sleep, in your dream time. You can call in master teachers to help you cultivate it. But to simply imagine, what would your day be like if you had immensely powerful intuition? and we're guided by source to
So,
imagine that feeling, to just start to it's like this combination of curiosity and activating the imagination, because our imagination, so our human selves, limited physical beings, right? We have this infinite nature. The bridge is our imagination, because it is the one human experience that every single human can access, our creativity, our imagination. And it's in that place that we can do miracles and that we can access source when we dedicate it to that. You know, if we
love
fill
that.
our imagination with entertainment
Fear.
somebody else has created that is painful, fucked up, negative, dramatic narratives, violence or misogyny or whatever, it limits it, but we can free our imagination. So activate your imagination. What would it be like if today my intuition was on point? What would it feel like? How would I access it? Opening your mind to imagine what it might be like, what it might feel like, and then you'll start to get inspired. And also imagining, gosh, I'm a multidimensional being. What does that mean? What is that like? What would it be like to be aware of my multidimensional self? So being curious about those things, taking a few, even just a few minutes every morning and every night. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time, but if you find it enjoyable, give yourself as much time as possible. Don't ever be bored. Don't ever just sit in line or wait at the DMV or whatever, being bored, filling your, what do I do? Scroll on Instagram or whatever. Take a moment to just like, what if my multidimensional self could be a blessing to every person sitting here at the DMV? What if I had the power to be an emanation of light?
Mm.
Doing that has created profound, like I was doing visualizations of a lotus at my head, sacred geometries, guiding my thoughts. And I've had people say, oh, you are from the Lotus Light ship. Or, just like things that I'm visualizing in my field, I'm putting there through my imagination. I'm just making it up. But that's what we're
Mm.
all doing, and
Yeah, that's
people who are sensitive are like, wow, what are you doing? You're from the Lotus,
I
like, oh,
love
okay,
it.
yes, I am. Uh, Glad that you see that, glad that you feel that, and people can feel it, and it makes a huge difference. At first, it may take a while, it may take a while to wake up those parts, but it really is in the imagination, and giving it the credit it deserves, because every single thing in our reality started as a thought.
Absolutely. Now you were talking about clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. Can you explain what those are for people who don't know what they are?
Yes, clairaudience is called clear hearing. So you might be able to hear messages from your guides. Like you'll hear them speak to you. Clairvoyance is clear visions, like third eye, your inner vision. So being able to see multiple dimensions, like energies, energy fields or colors, auras, things like that. Clairsentience is feeling, clear feeling. So
Mm.
you get like a download or like, the chills, right? You're like, ooh, okay, I can feel, or your belly tells you like this is correct. This is the thing. There's also clairgustance, which is clear taste. So you might be able to get information from your tongue. Like some people have that as a multidimensional antenna, and clear, I can't remember what the smell is, but and then there's things like balance. I don't know, just clear balance, like really being able to feel yourself in the multidimensional world, feeling a sense of balance. There have been
Wow.
times when I've meditated and my energy body doesn't feel like it's inside my physical body, and I want to align it. because my physical body and my energy body are not aligned, I'm more likely to have an accident or get sick.
That
So
makes sense. That
so
makes
that's a
sense.
sense, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't know exactly, like there, some people have names for them. I don't know that I have a name for it, except that I'm aware of it. I'm like, okay, I need to ground in, I need to pull, like my right shoulders back here. And, I feel like I'm a Picasso image at times, because I'm very sensitive and things can pull me out of alignment. So every day, pull it in, get it aligned.
Awesome. So what is a practice? So you said imagination, imagining that what it is that you're like, I love clairaudient, like just hearing and dropping in and feeling. I like to feel, actually. I'm a kinesthetic kind of person,
Hmm.
being a fitness person for over 20 years. But the frequency, like I can feel sometimes people's energy,
Yeah.
and that I feel we all have. And I, like you said, it's just practicing it. And the
Yes.
more I speak it, actually, the more I can feel it. And I
Yes.
used to be able, when I first helped to open up this one gym, it was really early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I could look at trees and I could see like a yellow aura around them, a yellow light
Yeah.
field right before the sun came up
Yeah.
for me. So things like
Yeah.
that.
And the thing is, I do think that some of us have it going in the background, and because our language doesn't incorporate that, and because we don't acknowledge it in our culture, we
Yeah.
ignore it. So I think a lot of people have heard the story of, when Columbus was about to land on the shores of America, of the Americas, only the shamans could see the
Oh,
ships
yeah.
showing up,
That's
right?
right.
It wasn't necessarily because, I mean, yes, they can see multidimensionally, but it was more like they couldn't even fathom, the people just couldn't even fathom, like, why would somebody create a craft and travel across this mother, the mother's body, like it just did, why would they leave home? It just didn't make, it was so outside their concept that they couldn't see it. So just, I don't know, it's probably been about 7 years now. All of a sudden I just realized, like, when I close my eyes, a lot of times there's some visual thing happening there. And I have ignored it forever. I was like watching things happening. And when I close my eyes and I like, oh, there's actually like a movie playing. What does it mean? I've ignored it forever. So as we start to be curious, as we start to entertain the possibility, these things that have been there forever
Hmm.
will start to be like, oh, okay, there it is. I get it. So imagining it creates this opening and acceptance of the possibility. And the more we work with it, the more it comes online.
I love it. Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. And again, it just goes back to we have not been taught this about ourselves, but
Yeah.
every single person, especially if you're a woman, understands women's intuition. You've had some type of an experience with intuition or with feeling something, especially if you're a mom with your kids. Maybe they're not even there. I knew you were hurt. Just
Yeah.
something like that. That's the power that we have, and cultivating it, like you're
Yeah.
saying, is where we're headed. It's
Yes.
a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And I want to
Um,
say something to the masculine people out there. I can't tell you how many men I have talked to who have said, oh, I wish I would have listened to my intuition. And I feel like men are getting the message that they don't have access to that. It feels too feminine and it feels too
oh, you're right.
woo-woo. And so they even more cut themselves off. So I'm blessed
Yeah.
to be with a partner who is very intuitive. And anytime I'm with and whether they're my partner or not, I just like, please listen to your intuition. And I tell him, every time you have an intuitive hit, follow it. I don't care whether
Yes.
I agree with you or not. Your intuition is accurate. Please follow it. And he's doing it more and more, and there's more magic happening for him.
Oh, I love that. And that's another programming for us, including myself. That's another programming. Women's intuition. It's a feminine thing. It's a female thing, but all of us have it. And there's some powerful men out there that have cultivated it very, very well. So I love that you brought that in. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about multidimensional people, this is another kind of, I hate saying woo-woo because I use that term as well, but this is actually what's happening all
Science.
around us. Yes, it really, really is. So explain a little bit about what is multidimensional. What does that mean?
Well, we know that one dimension is a little, like maybe a little flat dot. Two dimensions is a line. Three dimensions is cube, like we've got depth, right? Fourth dimension, for some people, they see fourth dimension. We can't really conceive of it. Actually, we can talk about it, but we're in the third dimension right now. Some of us are in the fourth. Some of us
Mhm.
are in the fifth at the same time. But
Yeah.
fourth dimension is where we start to have that connection with everything, right? We're interconnected and we start to really understand that. And we used to be in that all the time. That is indigenous mind. That is, I'm in relationship with everything, which means I don't just own something. I don't just find a piece of land and say, this is my land, and now I can sell it or I can do whatever I want with it. It's like, I am in relationship. Source, did Source call me to be a steward of this land? Yes. Okay. So how do I be a steward? But we're in actual relationship. We're aware of that engagement. We have our super senses online, some of them anyway. And so we are able to listen to the sentience of all things. So we're able to listen to plants. We are able to
Yeah.
listen to animal spirits. We are able to listen to and work with the elements. And they
Mhm.
call, like, I can work with some elements in some magical ways at times when I'm really outside of my ego. And, so it's an interconnected relationship. That's more fourth dimension. Fifth dimension is even greater unity consciousness. We are less in the physical, but we are more existing in the spaciousness between the energy molecules than the energy molecules themselves. We are in a pure vibration. I don't know how to explain the other dimensions, honestly. I
Those
don't
are
even know
enough.
how to
Those are enough.
differentiate them myself personally. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
know when I'm in when I go into those states of unity consciousness, there is, there's no need to talk about what layer I'm on or whatever, because I'm connected with everything that is. So
Yeah.
it would be like, what? Why, what are you talking about? That's a very third dimensional conversation to have. But we know from quantum physics that there are infinite possibilities and time
Yes.
is not linear. Um, and
Which is weird.
so we can, when we're in that, when we start to expand our consciousness to raise our vibration, which means feeling great,
Yeah.
could come from breath work, could come from dance, could come from sacred medicine, could come from uh, going out and swimming in the ocean with the dolphins. There are lots of ways to soften, open, expand. But when you feel great, when you feel really expansive, soft, open, available, then you're starting to, it's really comes from the place of consciousness, right? It doesn't mean it's all in our head, but it does mean it comes from our consciousness, because our consciousness is way beyond the physical body. So it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to the physical body, because the physical body is here in the third dimension. Our consciousness can expand. And that's scary for a lot of people, because it's been stigmatized as you're crazy, if you step outside analytical, what makes sense in the third dimension, you're going to lose your mind. You'll be in the loony bin and it's all over. But that's, there's that fear that keeps us, okay, I'm not going to do anything that's going to, make me lose control of myself. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that was helpful or not, but it's not going to make sense. It's going to be very disorienting. It's important, if you are worried about your mental health and well-being or trauma coming up, it's important, if you're interested in this work, to get support from someone who can hold that space, which means they've been there, not only been there, but they have experience holding space for other people to make sure that you are okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the attempts at getting there
Yeah.
without initiation, without education, can cause damage, you know?
Yeah.
Like Kundalini awakenings, for some people it's amazing. Thank goodness. Wow, I'm enlightened now. For some people, a Kundalini awakening is schizophrenia. It induces schizophrenia. It is too much. It is overwhelming. It's like if you plug in, I mean, I don't know electricity, but if you plug in a low wattage, element appliance into a high wattage, plug, it will fry it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what will happen if you open up yourself to super high frequencies and you haven't given yourself, massaged it open, and given yourself the
Gotten
time to be
ready.
gentle and open into it, with your body, your mind, your spirit, all of that, then it is likely to cause some damage, and it's really extreme.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and where we're headed with this, because I actually had an experience with ayahuasca that was it was absolutely amazing and really challenging and amazing and all of it. But I want to go back to one thing you were talking about with the fourth dimension, which is connection to everything and connection to the plants. When we look, or the programming that I see that has kept us separate from understanding that we are already connected to the earth, and for us to actually think that we're just supposed to live in these houses and drive these cars and eat this food at the grocery store, in the packaging, and it just magically appears on the shelves, you know it's like no, for us to actually go back. That's why one of the best things when people are stressed out, and I was doing a de-stress and detox program, is I tell them, get in nature. And if you can't get in nature, open your window and
Yeah.
let the sun shine on your face. Feel the frequency of the sun,
Yeah.
because these plants, they are alive, and you can actually feel the frequency of them. And when you put your feet on the grass, it
Yes.
feels so, so good. So
Yes.
this is where we come from, and where we're going back to is the earth. So
Yes.
we do have a connection that is way stronger than what the general media and television people want us to understand about ourselves.
Yes.
So what do you have to say around that topic?
I totally agree. And what dropped in was to share a ritual, and whether the ritual itself speaks to you or it helps ground in what you said. Um, I moved to a beautiful piece of property after that big wipeout in Oakland, in West Marin. And I went to introduce myself to the land. I took some tobacco. I went to make a prayer. I was sitting right next to a tree, right next to a beautiful stream. And as I sat down, I got this powerful download. And it was specifically the trees that were sharing that we, all of us, all of ourselves are immortal. Not just our consciousness, not just our energy bodies, but our actual physical bodies. Um, but we have done a lot. Again, there's been
Yeah.
something weird going on. Don't know who first
Mm-hmm.
thought of embalming bodies and keeping us from
Mm-hmm.
going back into the earth. But it was like your physical body, when it's like a birth, it's like like a conception. Your physical body and your spirit body, at the time of death, they separate. The thing that's been holding the physical body and the spiritual self together is the ego. And there's nothing wrong with the ego. It's very helpful. It's the glue that keeps them together. When at the time of death, when these two separate, if there was extreme trauma and Or if there is, the body doesn't go back into the earth, when the body doesn't go back into the earth, so the ego stays connected with the physical body because it's not elevated enough, it's not high frequency enough to be a part of the infinite spirit. Sorry, I used the wrong hands. But the ego self stays connected with the physical body. If there's extreme trauma, then that ego part can leave and get lost. If the body does not go back into the earth and become decomposed and literally go back into the womb of the mother,
Yeah.
where the ego can be reclaimed and become a part of the consciousness of Mother Earth. And so many of our ancestors have not had that. And guess what? It gets passed forward. And it was showing me this is why there's so much sociopathic, psychotic, all this mental illness. So much of it has been passed since we have been doing this practice of not allowing physical bodies to go back in and become part of the womb of the mother again. And so these psyches are now disconnected. It's also a result of traumatic death. And and if there's not ritual, so many indigenous practices know how to sit with, call in, support, sending that part of the self that isn't just goes back into unity consciousness. If that work isn't done, it is a hungry ghost and it gets passed forward. And so it was like, there are all these hungry ghosts, and there's this perpetuation of embalming bodies and using all these resources to keep them separate from the mother. I was like, because I've not ever wanted that. I've always wanted to go right back into the earth, the ocean, the earth, whatever it is, like I don't need a box. I don't need, just put me back in the earth. And it was showing me why I had that. And it was like, if you want to help, go to a tree, bring an offering, could be a song, could be something you've made with your hands, some tobacco, and really connect with that tree and ask it to adopt you. They are conduits between earth and sky, between heaven and earth, and they will help call those lost, hungry ghosts back into the earth. But you have to do the work to call in for your ancestors, for all of your relations, and you can do it for other people. You can do it over and over and over again. And the tree may give you messages. You may get messages from your ancestors. There may be songs that come through, but that just felt really important to share. I've shared it with a lot of people. We've done that ritual through in some of our ceremonies, and it just feels really helpful, and it made perfect sense.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. And that is true because, there are the things that go straight up from the earth to the heavens. So, I'm just looking at some of the trees that are here on
Yes.
land, and they're just, yeah, it's just absolutely stunning. So, I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do am curious because I love that you said you have gotten visions for 40 years about this time.
Yeah.
What do you see is coming, and how can people prepare themselves?
Well, what I was shown, because having those visions, like, what do I do? If I tell people and they believe me, they're just going to freak out. If they don't believe me, then they're just going to think I'm crazy and I'm going to be ineffective. And so it was like, instead of trying to warn people, just do your work. Just listen, so the work is do my own inner work. For each of you, do your own inner work, because the clearer you are, the more empowered you are, the
Yes.
more you can embody love and kindness, then the better it is. If you've got a lot of trauma in your system, it's so easy to get triggered, and little things will set you off and hurt people. Healing people,
Yeah.
heal people. So the more you have brought the love into yourself, the more you have learned to love and embrace all parts of yourself, and to be an ambassador of love and kindness on the planet, the more you echo it out to other people. So that's our work. That's my work. And I know specifically different ways. I have my mission, I have my work that I get paid for, but it's also in every moment, to show up, to listen, to activate those super senses, to get that intuition, to say that thing to that person, to offer this thing to this person, to show up at this place at this time. We never know what it is, but doing that inner work, being committed to show up with loving kindness in each moment is what it requires. If every and I'll say treating your life as sacred and honoring those sacred gifts beyond the fear of survival of I'm not going to make money from doing this. If I take really good care of myself, I'm not going to make money, or somebody's going to judge me as selfish. Like, fuck all of that. If you treat your time, your body, your life as sacred, eat your food in a sacred way, the more you bring the holy into your every way of being, then the greater impact you'll have just by being you, just
Yeah.
people can feel it, and then it inspires them. You don't have to go out and be an activist. I'm not an activist, but I do transform people through my presence and knowing how to show up in each moment. I fall short, I get human, I don't feel good, I get cranky, but in general, I'm on that mission. So that's what we all need to be doing right now. Listening to source, listening to how do I bring the better? How do I bring the beauty? How do I bring the elevation? Stay curious about how to show up in better and better ways. That's what we're all being called to do. It's going to look different for every person. It's all
Yeah.
fine. The message I got years ago was all the prayers have been made. Everything is in sacred motion. There is no way to fuck it up. All we have to, you can make it hard on yourself or you can make it a joy. So when things get tough, be loving and kind and gentle with yourself. When you have
Love
energy
it.
and you have the resource, show up and do what you can. And then when you need that break, when things start to feel crunchy, go in and resource again. It's not necessarily easy, but it can be filled with a sense of beauty and grace. So that's my message. It's all going to be amazing. Let it be easy for yourself. If you don't know how, if you feel like you're really stuck in negative thoughts and patterns, Michelle's amazing. She's on the same track. There are a lot of people here that know this mission and are here to help. I'm here to help. So get the help. Don't try to do it alone. We can't do it alone. I have my people. I have my team of people
Yeah.
that I go to when I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm in it. I don't know how to get out.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I love living in community. I live in a community of there's about 8 of us,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm not alone doing everything, and I love it. We actually have family dinners at
Mm,
nighttime, and we
beautiful.
actually listen to Charlie Brown Christmas jazz. It's fantastic. But Amanda, you gave me a video of the work that you do that I'm going to actually put right after this interview, so people, to learn more about your work and can explore,
Beautiful.
they can just stay on the video here and keep watching, and I'm going to add that to this here. And you have a free gift that you wanted to offer. What is the link for that, and what is that?
I have a couple of free gifts. The first free gift is just if you're interested in what I do. I'm not a pushy, it's not a pushy sales conversation. If you want to explore what I do, you can sign up for time to talk with me about what I do. I have a lot of free resources. So in that conversation, I always send people away with clear next steps and helpful resources. So that's available. And that's on my website, loesch.com. If you scroll down, you'll see free, schedule a free call with me. And then there's also on my website, loesch.com, for any of you who are interested in working with entheogens, which is a more respectful way of talking about psychedelics. You can get a comprehensive guide that I created to support you in preparation, what you can do in the middle of a journey to really elevate and get the most out of that work, and then integration work as well. And it's I don't remember how long it is, but I put a lot of golden nuggets in there for you. So both of those are available on the homepage of my website, loesh.com. You can see LOEsh right there.
So ELOESH.
That's right.
.com. Okay, awesome. All right, sister. Well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's seriously, it's time, and I love the tip about just the working on our own inner self and finding our own balance and our guidance, and then getting into nature. I loved what you shared about the trees. That was amazing. So
Thank
much mahalo for joining me.
you. Mahalo and aloha.
And aloha. See you guys soon, everybody.
Hello, this is Amanda LOS, your Quicker Waker Upper, and I wanted to share a little bit about the work that I do and how you can come along with me for more support. Ever since I was very, very young, I was a channel for the sacred and didn't necessarily know how it applied to the third dimensional world because there weren't people talking about the things that I was experiencing. I didn't necessarily have words for it myself. And I knew that there were some great gifts in those visions, but I wasn't sure exactly how I could use those gifts to help other people. I was put into a program for gifted kids and in elementary school and learned about placebos and got really, really excited because I realized that there are some things that the third dimensional human reality accepts as possible, being able to heal ourselves with placebo, basically using the power of the mind. So I've been really curious and passionate about learning about consciousness, the subconscious, and manifestation. And what I've learned in my academic pursuit, master's in counseling psychology and expressive arts therapy, and in many indigenous initiations, working with Shipibo and Mayan teachers and Medicine Path Native American Church, and working with sacred plant medicines, is that when we're born, we have this infinite soul that has come into a limited third dimensional body. And as we learn how to become human, we get taught a lot of things that have been passed down from generations that aren't necessarily true. And our limited English language disconnects us from our amazing super senses. We have more than 5, we have more than 6 even. And some indigenous cultures recognize 11 or even more. And just the fact that we've been disconnected through our language should tell us something. So when we come into these bodies, we have access to so much of ourselves, and then we're taught that we don't actually, or we get in trouble for expressing really beautiful, powerful parts of ourselves because our caretakers didn't know what to do with it, or they're afraid. I don't know if you've heard the expression that the tall poppy gets cut, right? So shining your light in certain ways is not acceptable. And so we learn to keep those parts of ourselves hidden, controlled, and sometimes we start to think of those parts of ourselves as bad and wrong. Because we can't really come to terms with that, it doesn't make sense to our innate wisdom. It goes into the subconscious as a survival program. So you may have learned something like freely expressing yourself. Maybe you were singing outside really loudly and took off your clothes to feel the sunshine on your body, and it just felt really great. And one of your caretakers was having a bad day or had a headache and yelled at you to be quiet. And you may have internalized a message that, being naked's bad, having that sun on your skin is a bad thing, expressing your joy for life is a bad thing. And it goes into the subconscious, and we make up weird stories that limit us. And so we go through our lives with all these limitations, and those innate beautiful parts of ourselves that long to be expressed come out sideways. And we have these survival programs that are on automatic, and they control us. They keep us from really expressing ourselves fully. They keep us from understanding our true power, our true nature. And so the work that I do is to help you to connect with those programs, to unravel them, to bring love, to bring permission, and to bring freedom to those programs, so that we can have, when you do that, when you bring your love and conscious awareness to these parts with compassion and curiosity, they evolve, they come out of the programming. And so if you think about the subconscious as like the center of a wagon wheel, the ways that these repressed gifts and innate parts of us that want to be expressed are, they're being controlled and they're stuck in these programs. The ways that it gets expressed, it's like an alarm system. So hard feelings, negative mental thoughts, physical challenges, they get expressed around the outside of the wagon wheel. And when you go into the center and bring that love and bring that mindful awareness and permission, then so many things start to open up. So people that have come to work with me on deprogramming their subconscious narratives around money, around relationship, around health, around spirituality, a lot of things start to shift. So I've had many people come to work with me who have maybe a whole team, like a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, a hypnotherapist, somatic healer, all these things. And within a very short period of time, when we bring that love, when we bring that curiosity and that compassion and that awareness, these parts that didn't feel safe start to feel safe, and they become expressed in healthy ways. And those problems, those alarms stop going off. We have more energy, we're sleeping better, we have more access to our energy, to our power, more awareness, more expansiveness inside. And it's a very simple approach. So I work with somatic awareness, because things get expressed in the body. That's one of the ways that those alarm signals come up. And anything actually that's happening in your life that feels like it's a struggle, that feels like it's stuck, that feels like it's a repeat pattern, and you're doing your best to unravel it and it's not getting any better, that is a sure sign that there is some subconscious programs that need to be released. And I refer to it as rescuing the light. Again, because a lot of times the things that we got in trouble for, the things that we're working on repressing, they've been mislabeled as something bad, something shameful, something wrong, inappropriate. And when we can bring some love and kindness there, those programs get released. And now all of a sudden we have more of ourselves, and the light that we truly have starts to shine through. And you can move into, once all the subconscious programming is released, you can start to tap into super senses, your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, clairsentience. Intuition gets very powerful. You're more able to trust that inner voice, because it's no longer ruled by fear. It's no longer ruled by oppressive messages that came in from church or school or caretakers. Maybe they had our best interest in mind, but they were still passing along rules for survival that aren't actually in our favor. So that's the basic nature of the work that I do. It's based in, again, somatic awareness, and we do a lot of guided meditation. The imagination, your imagination, is your sacred portal to the infinite, to the holy, to source. And when you know how to work with it in a masterful way, and you know how to identify and shift subconscious programs, then everything that comes your way becomes a gift. And when things fall apart, you start to recognize that this is an opportunity for a big upgrade instead of worrying and spiraling down into despair and hopelessness. So that's just a quickie overview of the work that I do. If you find that you are in circumstances in your life that feel like you've done everything you know how to shift it and it's just not working really well, uh, good sign there's something going on in the subconscious, and it would be my honor and pleasure to help you to rescue the light that you have inside of you and stop being limited and start living your full human potential. If you are interested in talking with me about the work that I do, I would be honored to do that. I will make sure that you get a link to schedule some time with me. And you can find that link on my website, loesh.com, Eloesh. It's right here, loesh.com. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see an invitation to schedule some time to talk with me. And it's a non-obligatory, non-pushy exploration of where you're at now, where you would like to be, what might be possible for you, and what I might be able to do to support you in getting there. So no need to stay stuck anymore. I'm here for you. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Amanda Loesh, and until we get to connect, may the source be with you.